Chapter 121. The Spirit Possesses the Body. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. The man, who was about to open the coffin, hurriedly nodded. Open the coffin. Quickly open the coffin. I'll give you money. As much as you want. Yi Xiaoyang sighed. The love of parents in this world is immense. Even after their child dies, they are still so obsessed. He immediately climbed down into the grave. The old Taoist priest was still standing beside the grave, gesticulating and directing the people to set fire. As soon as he saw Yi Xiaoyang, he shouted loudly, "You can't open the coffin. If the zombie comes out, we won't survive." Yi Xiaoyang ignored him, snatched the hammer from the coffin bearer's hand, jumped into the grave, and pulled out the 7 nails on the coffin lid one by one. The coffin nails were inherently spiritual, and he had intended to use Maoshan magic to quickly and easily remove them by hand. However, doing so would seem too illusory, and he didn't want to waste his magical power on it. Yi Xiaoyang used a hammer to pull out 7 nails in one go, then stood to the side, pressing the coffin lid with his right hand, muttering an incantation and shouting, "Rise." He swung his hand, and the coffin lid sprang open and flew to the side. In an instant, everyone involuntarily looked inside the coffin. A young girl in a burial shroud, with long hair flowing over her shoulders, slowly sat up from within. Her face was pale, and a slight smile played on her lips as she stared at Yi Xiaoyang. "A fake corpse. Run!" The old Taoist shouted and led the way in fleeing. Chapter 122. The Braided Ponytail. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Yi Xiaoyang remained silent, carefully considering everything from beginning to end, and increasingly realized something was amiss. He had originally intended to find that ancient sorcerer, but halfway through, he encountered this strange incident, and it was just a troublesome tentacle. As expected, its true form was at least a demon spirit. He muttered, "The only demons within a radius of a few hundred miles could be the spirits of the 7 grandmothers' temple. Because this area is its territory, no other powerful demons could be cultivating here." Little Ma scratched his head, wondering, is that right? Or is it like in Journey to the West, where some other demon passed through here? Yi Xiaoyang glanced at him, too lazy to answer. The fat idiot, the probability of a demon passing through here is very low, and it coincidentally coincides with the time they arrived at the mountain. No matter how you think about it, it's impossible. Forget it, don't think about it anymore. There's more important business. Yi Xiaoyang threw the hose into the grave, picked up a shovel, and began digging to bury it. He turned to look at the man who was standing dazed in front of his daughter's body and said, "You saw it yourself. The demonic energy here will take more than 10 days to dissipate. Go find another place to bury your daughter." The man recovered his senses, nodded, and hugged his daughter's body, saying, "If you have a car, can you give me a ride? I want to find a place to bury her." Yi Xiaoyang thought to himself, since he was carrying the body, he really couldn't go far, and he certainly couldn't go back to the village, because after this incident, the villagers would definitely not let him take the body back. He nodded slightly, called Xiao Ma to help, and the two of them carried the girl's body onto the car. The tires were already inflated, and Old Gua drove them forward. "When we reach a suitable place, remember to call for help, and we'll get out of the car to help you dig the hole." Old Man Gua instructed the young man. The young man nodded blankly. Yi Xiaoyang sat in the passenger seat, sniffing the air. He sensed an endless, overwhelming demonic aura emanating from the car. He felt a little suspicious, thinking that perhaps the girl had been possessed by a demon, and the demonic energy hadn't completely dissipated. He felt relieved and no longer worried. This chapter has image content. If you cannot see the chapter content, please turn on your browser's image display mode to read. Deep Fu Duong immediately pushed the car door down and ran towards Tu Ma and the village girl. Deep Fu Duong saw a long pigtail swinging in front of his face. His heart also wanted to vomit. He quickly moved forward to pull Tu Ma. "Quickly come back." Tu Ma ran away in smoke. Deep Fu Duong halfway forward. Suddenly a thick black mist rose from the ground, blocking his sight. "Ghost mist." Deep Fu Duong raised his hand to dispel the ghost. When the fog dissipated, the female ghost on the road also disappeared, no longer a trace. He had no choice but to return to the car. Chuma also returned to the car, trembling and trembling, telling everyone the story, touching his head, asking, "Little Deep, do I still have a head? Am I dead yet? That's an illusion of ghost life. It's not real." Deep Phu Duong said, "This is a type of mountain ghost, called Mao Nu. The front and back are all hair. It can fascinate people, but it is only a low-level ghost soul. Why does it dare to appear in front of me?" Chu Ma said, unconvinced. "If it can release mist, then what is a low-level ghost soul? Ghost fog is not released by it." Deep Phu Duong looked around. The surrounding area is filled with ghosts. There must be a ghost leader. Having finished speaking, he took out a spiritual talisman, cut off the tip of his finger, drew a few lines on it, and stuck it on the hood of the car, saying to Mr. Quach, "Close all the car doors to prevent the evil spirit from invading and controlling our minds. Continue driving." Old Quach looked at the two paths in front of him and asked, "Where to drive?" "Just choose one arbitrarily. Let's get out of here first. This place is too evil." Deep Phu Duong turned his head to look at the man hugging the body. He could not rely on the guide, so he ran out of here first. Old Quach still drove on the left road as before. The road turned left, thanks to the moonlight. One could see the car running between the mountainside. The road on the right was a cliff of 10,000 feet. "Be careful," Deep Phu Duong reminded. "Even if you encounter a ghost, you can still deal with it. If you fall down a cliff, everyone will die. I'm driving, you can rest assured." Old Quach said. "The driver has been in the industry for 20 years. Chu Ma pouted and silently said, "There are drivers from the village." When turning left no more than 20 meters, two turns appeared ahead. The three people suddenly gasped. "How is this possible?" Old Quach exclaimed in surprise. "Oh my God, when did the mountain path become a maze? There's not even a traffic sign." Deep Phu Duong frowned, observed for a moment, turned the car window, threw a coin on the ground, said, "This time go to the right." Along the right road, there was a turn in the distance. Old Quach was startled and said, "Huh? Why take this turn to the right? To the left?" Deep Phu Duong frowned, looked at the road ahead, not speaking. When entering the turn, another turn appeared ahead. What is that?" Old Quach was also aware of the serious problem. Deep Phu Duong told him to stop the car, then got out of the car, looked around for a while, picked up an object from the ground, returned to the car, opened his hand. In his palm was a shining coin, smiled bitterly, and said, "This is the coin you threw just now." Chu Ma was shocked. "Impossible. Could it be that all this time we were just going around? Before turn left, then turn right, through 3 roads. But you say it's going around and around? Do you think this is a maze? All roads are connected?" Deep Phu Duong took a deep breath and declared, "We have encountered ghosts smashing through walls." Old Quach was startled and frowned. "That's impossible. Every road has ghosts. Are all roads illusions of ghost walls? Then it's cultivation level." Deep Phu Duong said, "Ghosts, it can only be done by ghosts." Old Quach was terrified. "That can't be like that." "Okay." Kuma blinked his eyes. "What is a ghost stage? What are you talking about?" Deep Phu Duong paid no attention to him, just said to Old Quach, "Ghost stage cannot appear in the world, but the illusion of a ghost wall is so long. Only a ghost stage can do it." Old Quach's face suddenly turned pale. Even though he was just a good disciple at Maoshan's gate, he had also heard the phrase ghost stage from the 4 directions, and shook his head. "I still don't believe it. If the ghost stage comes to the human world, then the world will be in chaos." "Oh, little junior brother, how do you plan to solve the ghost wall illusion?" Deep Phu Duong suddenly looked at him with interest and said, "The cultivation level is too strong. It can't be solved. If it has the guts to show the ghost wall illusion, it obviously doesn't want to play with us anymore. Brother driver, let's try that road. I want to see what game it's playing." Old Quach hesitated a bit. "But listen to me," Deep Phu Duong said decisively. Old Quach could do nothing but step on the accelerator and steer to the left. Deep Phu Duong looked through the rearview mirror, adjusted the angle, and looked at his hair. Tu Ma was startled and said, "Tu Deep, are you still awake? Are you still looking in the mirror to adjust your hair at this time? The wind blew in disorder, losing your handsomeness." Deep Phu Duong stroked his hair with his hand, running around. The The car still returned to the original place. Deep Phu Duong stared at the rearview mirror, faintly said, "Continue driving. Keep driving until you run out of gas." Old Quach knew that he must have done it with intention, so he didn't ask why, just obeyed the order. Deep Phu Duong reached into his belt and took out a coin. Ju's mother, while admiring and looking through the rearview mirror, asked, "Uncle, where is your house in the village?" Based on the angle of the mirror, Deep Phu Duong could see him, but he did not see Deep Phu Duong, just raised his head, stared blankly at the back of his neck, and vaguely said, "The village dike." "The dike? Is it far from here?" The man's face was infatuated. "Stupid," didn't answer. Deep Phu Duong bowed his head, put the Jiao Mao big money in his mouth, bit the tip of his tongue, quietly took it out, used a red line to wrap around the coin, then took out a piece of magic talisman, dabbed the tip of his tongue with blood, quickly drew a symbol on it, and wrapped the coin. Everything was done in secret. Only Old Quach saw what he was doing. He was extremely surprised. Used red lines and talismans to wrap it. Money. This is the method of Maoshan Sin Tu Cow. Using the blood of the tip of the tongue to smear Jiao Mao Dai Tian. Using heaven and earth talisman to cover Jiao Mao. When completing heaven and earth of life and death, in this place full of demonic weapons, Deep Phu Duong must have lost at least half of his magic power. If he had to use heaven and earth of life and death, Old Quach had no doubt that the opponent must be a demon leader. With this trick, even if it doesn't kill you, you have to peel its skin. It's just that the surroundings are full of ghosts. Before meeting the main owner, Deep Phu Duong performs heaven and earth life and death. So who is he trying to deal with? Old Quach secretly guessed, suddenly felt his body tense, stepped on the accelerator pedal. The car suddenly increased speed. "Damn it, Old Quach, you're crazy." Ma shouted loudly. "There's a turn ahead. Why are you driving so fast? Stop the car quickly." Chapter 124, Heaven and Earth Life and Death Not. Asterisk. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Yi Xiaoyang sighed inwardly, stood up abruptly, and slipped into the gap between the two men. His left hand formed a hand seal and struck the man's face. The man sneered and raised his hand to confront Yi Xiaoyang. As their hands touched, Yi Xiaoyang changed his hand seal. Two fingers, one, pointed directly into the man's palm, and his right hand clenched into a fist and punched straight into the man's mouth. One, pointing hand seal. A common hand seal, the index and middle fingers are pressed together and pointed straight, while the other fingers are closed in the palm. The man instinctively opened his mouth. Yi Xiaoyang seized the opportunity, opened his palm, and stuffed the heaven and earth life and death knot into the man's mouth. With a raised right hand, a talisman was affixed directly to the man's mouth as he chanted loudly, "Heaven and earth are boundless. The universe borrows its power." A wave of death energy appeared on the man's face, but he quickly suppressed it, a strange smile forming on his lips. Instantly, Yi Xiaoyang felt a powerful demonic force invading his body. His expression darkened, and he quickly chanted the soul-stabilizing incantation, creating another surge of powerful energy within his body to counteract the demonic energy. The heaven and earth life and death seal had begun to exert its divine power, gradually dissolving into the powerful cultivation within the demon's body. "Master Yi, your magical power is indeed formidable." Yi Xiaoyang sensed a cold, icy voice echoing within the man, immediately snorting and replying, "Ghost Deputy 7th Elder? How did you find me?" Yi Xiaoyang knew it was using language to distract him, so he didn't answer, focusing instead on chanting the heaven and earth mantra, increasing the power of the heaven and earth life and death seal. Old Gua felt the power controlling his body slowly dissipating, his soul returning. He wanted to bite his tongue, but his strength was still insufficient. Xiaoma also felt the female corpse strangling him loose in its grip, so he immediately grabbed his wrist and tried to pull it away. Chapter 125, Miscalculating the Demon's Deputy. Asterisk. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Yi Xiaoyang shook his head. "That's true, but the girl might not have been killed by it. However, since this area is within its sphere of influence, it knew we were coming, deliberately obstructed the funeral procession, punctured the tires, and then entered the girl's body to lure us in. While we were distracted, it took the opportunity to kill the girl's father, and then transformed into his appearance. Even if it's a demon spirit, it wouldn't be easy to hide from us, because it has nothing to conceal its demonic energy. However, its plan is very perfect. It pretended that the demonic energy came from the female corpse, then it pretended to bury its daughter, got into our car, and its purpose was to create a ghost wall illusion, causing us to fall down the mountainside. Damn it, this thing is so smart. Little Ma sighed. If it's so powerful, why doesn't it just fight us directly instead of wasting so much effort? Yi Xiaoyang sneered. Of course, dealing with you doesn't require any insidious tricks. A mere glance is enough to kill you. Only I have the 7-star dragon spring sword, so it wouldn't dare confidently defeat me. Of course, it has to play tricks to save time. Little Ma kicked the corpse on the ground and asked, "Is this beast as strong as Feng Xinwu?" "Not much weaker than Feng Xinwu." "Impossible." Little Ma's eyes widened. "How come you killed it so easily?" "Easily?" Yi Xiaoyang really wanted to spit in his face. "I said it might not be able to beat me, but I didn't say I'd easily defeat it. It was already in the car, and you two useless guys were beside it. If I hadn't noticed early, seized the initiative, shoved the heaven and earth life and death not into its mouth, and crippled half of its cultivation. Do you know the consequences?" Old Guo remembered the battle just now and was also very frightened, saying, "Little junior brother, is it a demon's servant of the 7th grandmother?" 8 out of 10 times so. The 7th grandmother is a demon spirit, and this demon serving her is a bit of a loss. It might even be no less powerful than the 7th grandmother. Little Ma said, "I keep wondering why it knew we were here. This area is its territory, of course it knows. Demons and ghosts have 100 times stronger senses than humans. It's possible that we were discovered as soon as we entered the mountains, and then it plotted against us." Little Ma chuckled and said, "Its most powerful right-hand man has been eliminated by us. If it knew the outcome so early, why didn't it just fight us in a duel? Even if it couldn't win, it still had a chance to escape. Why play games? By the way, little Yi, what will happen to that escaped soul? Its cultivation has reached the level of a demon leader. Its strength is not to be underestimated. However, it has lost its demon body, so it has lost half its power. Next time we meet, it will definitely be easier to deal with." Chapter 126. The Corpse in the Jar. Asterisk, this chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. These matters can only be known by going to the field. Yi Xiaoyang told them to prepare to go up the mountain. There are poisonous insects on the mountain that haven't yet become sentient, so magical artifacts might be useless. We should prepare some weapons. Old Gua opened the car trunk and took out 2 engineering shovels, giving one to Xiaoma. Following the villagers' directions, the 3 followed a narrow, winding path up the mountainside. After only a few hundred meters, they saw a tall building on the mountainside, with a courtyard as large as a football field. To maintain secrecy, the 3 decided not to use any light source, silently creeping through the vegetation to approach the building. Old Gua and Xiaoma, wielding shovels, led the way, overcoming all obstacles. As the villagers had rumored, this area was indeed teeming with venomous insects. Almost every bush had a snake or a swarm of centipedes. Fortunately, all 3 had coated their bodies with realgar powder, so the insects didn't dare approach. Crawling halfway up the hillside, they reached a building. The 3 looked up and observed the walls, which were about 3 meters high, topped with an iron mesh fence. The walls were covered with lizards, spiders, centipedes, and other venomous insects, a truly terrifying sight. Xiaoma grumbled, "Why are all these insects swarming up there? The Yin energy inside is very strong, and there's even a hint of blood." Yi Xiaoyang sniffed, replying, "All the venomous insects like this smell." The 3 walked to the main gate and peered through the iron bars. Inside were several ponds enclosed by iron mesh. Yi Xiaoyang surmised that these ponds were undoubtedly used to breed the venomous insects the villagers had mentioned. A row of dimly lit single-story houses stretched ahead. "Are we in the right place?" Xiaoma asked softly. "I smell demonic energy. 80% sure we're here," Yi Xiaoyang said. "Let's figure out a way to get in." Xiaoma looked up at the wall, which was over 3 meters high and covered with barbed wire, and said, "There's no ladder. How are we going to get in? Take off your shirt." Chapter 127. A terrifying scene. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. The blood is still red, proving that they became water corpses in a very short time, no more than a month. Yi Xiaoyang stood up, took out a blank talisman, dipped it in some blood, burned it, and watched the black smoke dissipate. He said, "The corpse energy is dense. He must have refined at least 10 water corpses." Xiaoma anxiously asked, "Are there other water corpses? They might be used to refine ancient poisons. I'm not very knowledgeable about ancient techniques, so I don't understand much." Old Guo looked at the water corpse on the ground and said, "Where did he get so many corpses? Did he dig graves?" Yi Xiaoyang replied, "I don't know. Xiaoma, take pictures of this place with your phone and then give them to Xie Yuqing. Let her handle this." After saying that, Yi Xiaoyang went to the room. On the opposite side, all the room doors are made of wood and have no locks. Upon opening the door, he discovered it was a storage room filled with boxes and cloth bags. He smelled cinnabar, glutinous rice, agarwood, and several common medicinal herbs, so he didn't bother going inside. He returned to the main house, pushed open the door to the right, and found a simple living room. After searching, he only managed to find a few common items used by ancient sorcerers, nothing else. Xiaoma threw up the black quilt on the bed, clicking his tongue and saying, he didn't even bother to clean the quilt. He's so preoccupied with cultivating sorcery that he's left the quilt so filthy, and now he's plotting something. Ouch, something bit me. He hastily threw the quilt back onto the bed, opened his hand, and saw a small, slightly bleeding scratch on his middle finger, which was gradually swelling up. Yi Xiaoyang quickly took Xiaoma's hand, pressed the last joint of his finger, then took out a talisman and burned it into a blue flame. He held the flame to Xiaoma's last fingertip. A small creature scurried back and forth beneath the skin, finally caught by Yi Xiaoyang. Chapter 128. Cloud-Level Heavenly Book. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Yi Xiaoyang understood immediately. No wonder they could stuff an entire human body into a jar. It turned out their limbs had been severed. A sharp pain welled up in his heart. Gritting his teeth, he walked to a jar, touched a little of the liquid, sniffed it, and sighed. This is corpse oil. It might be a material for sorcery. I don't know what it is. To prevent bleeding and decay? Old Guo whispered. Perhaps it also provides nourishment, keeping them alive. Yi Xiaoyang lowered his head to look at the woman's feet and gently said, "Tell me, how long have you been like this?" 3 months. The woman cried out again. We want to die but can't. Please save us, or just kill us." Hearing this, Yi Xiaoyang was furious. Their limbs were severed, their bodies soaked in wine jars for 3 months, unable to move, unable to do anything. This torture, that sorcerer was truly too disgusting. Disgusting. Xiaoma gritted his teeth, clenching his fists. Little Yi, quickly save them. Yi Xiaoyang squatted down in front of one of the women, carefully examining the centipede. Its head was embedded in her body, and its body gradually turned black, rough, and shiny. Although he didn't know what kind of sorcery this was, he understood that the centipede was definitely sucking blood or something inside the girl's body, and it was sewn tightly to her eyes, proving that the sorcerer had calculated that the girl would shake her head and drop the centipede. "I have to kill that centipede first, to prevent it from noticing the changes outside and causing more strange actions. Please be patient." After saying this, Yi Xiaoyang took out the box of 18 divine needles, picked up a large needle, pricked his middle finger, dipped it in some blood, took a deep breath, and then stabbed it straight into the centipede. The centipede was hit by the needle, its body sewn to the eye socket, and could only writhe, trying its best to burrow into the girl's flesh. Chapter 129. The Demon Child Reappears. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Yi Xiaoyang was immediately shocked. It turned out that this person had cursed him for the 3 secret scriptures passed down to inner disciples of Maoshan, the cloud-level heavenly book, and one of the 3 great magical artifacts revered as the #1 magical artifact of the Taoist sect, the 7-star dragon spring sword. He naturally couldn't give him these two items, but a wise man doesn't dwell on immediate losses. Yi Xiaoyang pretended to hesitate, saying, "These two are out of the question. The others can be considered. How about I give you just one?" The sorcerer's eyes lit up, saying, "Okay, then give me the dragon spring sword." "Well, all right, I'll give you the dragon spring sword first. If you release us, I'll give you something else. But the cloud-level heavenly book is out of the question." Yi Xiaoyang spoke so convincingly that the sorcerer believed him. Excitedly, he exclaimed, "Excellent. Give me the dragon spring sword, and I'll immediately remove the blood curse from you." Yi Xiaoyang gritted his teeth. "All right, I trust you." He reached behind him, preparing to take the dragon spring sword. Old Gua hurriedly shouted, "Little junior brother, you can't give him the precious sword. He won't let us go." But it was too late. Yi Xiaoyang waved his hand and threw a black object up the chimney. Since there was no light in the room, the sorcerer only saw a black object flying towards him, mistaking it for the dragon's spring sword. He reached out to catch it, but with a whoosh, the object pierced his palm and went into his left eye, instantly shattering it. "Your fate is sealed by your birth chart. Your money has no roots. Come down here." Yi Xiaoyang formed hand seals and used the coin to forcefully pull the opponent's body. The sorcerer immediately slipped halfway down the chimney, but he reacted extremely quickly, grabbing the coin in his eye socket and trying to pull it out. Chapter 130, Disgusting Demon. * This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Its two heads, trimmed on either side of the previous one, both fully equipped with eyes, noses, and mouths, displayed a variety of ferocious expressions. Long fangs dripped a sticky, bluish-green fluid. Just a glance was enough to fill one with terror. "Oh damn, a mutated creature. I'm out of here." Xiaoma immediately retreated and hid behind Old Gua and Yi Xiaoyang. At the same time, the demon child's body suddenly cracked open. The sound of bones breaking crack echoed, and the skin tore off in chunks, blood gushing out and covering a mass of flesh and skin. Yi Xiaoyang, seeing the true form of the six-eyed demon child for the first time, was stunned by the terrifying sight before him, momentarily forgetting to attack. The six-eyed demon child seized the opportunity and lunged forward in front of the three, raising its head in the middle. Two of its four tightly closed eyes immediately opened, revealing four blood-red pupils. "This is bad," Yi Xiaoyang whispered. "The ghost child has opened four eyes. Its cultivation is comparable to the ghost leader. Everyone be careful. Protect yourselves." Before he finished speaking, the ghost child's four eyes suddenly shot out four streams of red evil energy, striking towards the three of them. Yi Xiaoyang immediately took out a handful of 5 emperor coins and threw them into the air. The four streams of evil energy touched the coins, a golden light flashed, and the coins immediately blocked the 4 streams of evil energy, but they also turned black and fell to the ground. Yi Xiaoyang didn't expect that the six-eyed ghost child wouldn't advance, but retreat. It retreated to the corner of the wall and let out a strange cry. Continuously. Chapter 131. The three-tailed centipede sacrifices itself. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Aware of the moment of mortal danger, the six-eyed ghost child finally completed its second evolution. Its body underwent a terrifying transformation. Blood flowed profusely. Its 2 arms suddenly extended, and its body was enveloped in a layer of red, evil energy, like raging flames. Roar! The six-eyed ghost child let out a strange roar, its entire body erupting with evil energy, and it leaped towards Yi Xiaoyang. Yi Xiaoyang met its attack with a slash, but was forced back by the terrifying evil energy, caught in a stalemate. At this moment, he felt the ghost child sink, as if something had just landed on its body, causing it to tremble. It roared angrily, repeatedly striking its back. Yi Xiaoyang caught a glimpse of a large centipede-like tail behind the ghost child, its claws, resembling crab claws, gripping its flesh. A centipede? Where did this centipede come from? Why was it biting its family member? Yi Xiaoyang was momentarily confused. Suddenly, He noticed the centipede had 3 tails behind it. He remembered it was the 3-tailed centipede that had lived inside the corpse demon's belly before. After the corpse demon was destroyed, Old Gua took the 3-tailed centipede, saying he wanted to purify the evil spirits and tame it into his pet. It seemed he had succeeded. The 6-eyed ghost child writhed under the centipede's attack, turning around and grabbing the centipede's hindquarters, tearing at it with all its might. The centipede's belly was ripped open, its intestines spilling out. The 3-tailed centipede seemed unaffected by the pain, continuing to bite the ghost child's belly, wrapping itself tightly around its body. Chapter 132, The 5 Ghosts Map. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. They climbed down from the rooftop and were greeted by Xie Yuqing. Seeing that they were unharmed, she felt relieved, helped them into the car, gave each of them a bottle of water, and let them rest. Yi Xiaoyang was bandaging the wounds inflicted by the 6-eyed ghost child's claws and bites. He glanced at the flames, which were getting smaller and smaller, and then completely extinguished. Xie Yuqing was carrying a pile of KFC chicken boxes into the car, placing them on the seats, and said, "I know you haven't had dinner yet, so I bought some fried chicken. Are you hungry? I'll treat you today." The 3 immediately grabbed the fried chicken without hesitation and devoured it quickly. Yi Xiaoyang still licked his lips longingly, then recounted the events to her. Upon hearing this, Tavu Tin was utterly terrified. She led them to the scene, searching through the ruins, but still found nothing. Yi Xiaoyang pushed open the door of the back room. Outside was a garden full of medicinal herbs, all burned to ashes by the fire. He poured gasoline on the entire house. Xie Yuqing explained. That's why the fire flared up so quickly, and when it was extinguished, there was nothing left. Yi Xiaoyang asked, "Where are the poisonous insects raised in those ponds?" When we arrived, we saw many animals and insects fleeing. Some were killed, and others escaped. Is there any impact? Yi Xiaoyang shook his head. Without the care of the sorcerer, they will die quickly. However, you should still send someone to the nearby small town at the foot of the mountain to keep watch for a few days, to prevent the poisonous insects from entering the village and harming others. Xie Yuqing immediately called and gave instructions to her subordinates. Following Yi Xiaoyang's suggestion, Xie Yuqing's subordinates found the corpses and remains of the deceased and quickly issued a warrant for the arrest of the unfortunate sorcerer. The police also began investigating his identity and tracking down his whereabouts. Chapter 133. The Body Was Eaten. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Old Gua paused for a moment, then added, "It's just that the drawing is too abstract, and there are no markings, so we don't know where it was drawn." Xie Yuqing said, "It's very simple. I'll take a picture with my phone and send it to the engineering department. They can analyze it using Google Earth and searching. They can get the results in 10 minutes at most." After saying that, she called a technical staff member and explained the situation. The other end indicated that it was no problem. Sure enough, less than 10 minutes later, they sent a map. Xie Yuqing took out her phone, opened it, studied it for a while, then looked up at Yi Xiaoyang and said, "It's the map of this area." Yi Xiaoyang took the mobile phone and compared it with the drawing on the laptop. It was exactly the same map, and the mobile phone showed it even more clearly, displaying the place names and the locations marked by the mapmaker. "Where is the 7 Grandmothers Temple located?" Yi Xiaoyang asked, not very familiar with mobile phone functions. Xie Yuqing helped him find the location. After looking at it, Yi Xiaoyang zoomed in on the location for the other 4 to see. After looking at it once, he took a deep breath and said in shock, "I can't believe it's the 5 Ghost Mountain Formation." "What is that?" Xie Yuqing and the others anxiously asked. "Let's not talk about that for now. I have to go show it to the locals first, then I can make a judgment." Yi Xiaoyang pointed to the highest red dot on the map and said, "This place is very close to us." After looking at it, Xie Yuqing said, "Liangjia village, about 10 kilometers from here." "About 10 kilometers." Yi Xiaoyang nodded. Just then, a vendor carrying a tray came by. Yi Xiaoyang casually asked, "Miss, do you know where Liangjia village is?" The tray in the girl's hand immediately fell to the ground, the contents shattering. She shook her head, her face panicked, and said, "I don't know." She didn't even bother to pick up the tray, just turned and ran out quickly. Everyone was stunned. Xie Yuqing stood up to stop the girl, put her hand on her shoulder, and advised, "Don't be afraid. We're all police officers. We just want to know a little about the actual situation in Liangjia village." Chapter 134. The Corpse-Eating Demon. Asterisk: this chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Yi Xiaoyang's heart sank. It was indeed related to ghosts. He patted the village chief on the shoulder and said, "Whether it can be resolved or not, just tell us the whole truth, and we'll judge for ourselves. How about we find a place to sit down and talk slowly? What do you think?" The village chief nodded and bowed before leaving. Yi Xiaoyang and Xiao Ma hurriedly followed. Before leaving, Xiao Ma turned back to look at everyone and blurted out, "Why are your faces so pale? Are you feeling unwell?" As soon as he finished speaking, everyone immediately turned their heads and glared angrily at Xiao Ma. Some even picked up hoes and shovels and walked towards him. Yi Xiaoyang quickly pulled him away. I didn't say anything wrong. Why are they reacting so violently?" Xiao Ma asked in fear. Taking advantage of the village chief's inattention, Yi Xiaoyang leaned into his ear and whispered, "Those people lived in a place filled with resentment for a long time and were bewitched by it, their minds hazy. They didn't even know it. If you had spoken up to warn them, it would have triggered the resentment within them. Luckily, you didn't say much. Otherwise, they would have torn you to pieces." Xiao Ma looked at the village chief's back in horror and said, "Heavens, is that even possible? Will they turn into ghosts? Being infected with resentment will eventually turn them into walking corpses, but this takes a very long time. Those people are still perfectly fine right now." Yi Xiaoyang waved his hand, dispelling a mist-like stream of malevolent energy, and said, "Once the malevolent energy dissipates, the people here can enjoy sunlight for half a month and return to normal." Xiao Ma, upon hearing this, looked at the approaching streams of energy, recognizing them as malevolent energy. He suddenly felt a chill run down his spine, involuntarily hugging his arms and muttering, "Where did this malevolent energy come from?" "From vengeful spirits. There are many vengeful spirits here." Yi Xiaoyang had expected the village chief to lead them to a room in the village to sit down and chat, but unexpectedly, the old man directly left the village and ran towards the back of the mountain. Yi Xiaoyang and Xiao Ma silently followed the village chief. He stopped at a spot halfway up the mountain, telling Yi Xiaoyang and Xiao Ma to go and look. Ahead was a graveyard, but what terrified them was that all the graves had holes in them, and the corpses hung precariously from the headstones, seemingly gnawed by something. Except for their heads, their entire bodies were gone. The heads, exposed to the sun and rain for years, had gradually withered, becoming what people jokingly called dried bodies. Beneath the heads were a few broken, bare skeletons, as if gnawed by animals, with some pieces of flesh or tattered clothing still clinging to them. Even just one such corpse would be enough to terrify people, let alone hundreds of corpses, all identical. Yi Xiaoyang and Xiao Ma were stunned, speechless. "See." The village chief looked on in stunned silence at the scene before him, softly saying, "All the bodies were dug out of their graves and gnawed like this. We were helpless. Anyway, the bodies were going to be eaten later, so they decided not to buy coffins today, at least to save some money." Hearing this, Little Ma suddenly panicked and asked a rather inappropriate question. Was it wild animals? The village chief only shook his head, saying, "It started 2 years ago. Someone died in the village, and the next day, after the burial, the grave was dug up. Except for the head, the entire body was gnawed to pieces. At the time, everyone thought it was wild animals and didn't pay much attention. Until a few days later, a child drowned in the village. The villagers dug up a grave for him, and the next day, his flesh was completely gnawed to pieces. Only then did the villagers feel terrified. Afterward, an old man in the village died, and the villagers prepared weapons and hid. After the graves, they planned to catch the wild beast that had been devouring the corpses. As a result, everyone was asleep that night, and when they woke up the next morning, the graves had been dug up, the corpses gnawed to pieces, and human flesh scattered everywhere. Chapter 135. The Soul-Guiding Lamp on the Body. Asterisk: this chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, Please enable image display in your browser to read it. Xiao Ma was startled upon hearing this. Aren't ghosts just ghosts? They are already illusory, so why can they eat corpses? Yi Xiaoyang explained. This type of ghost isn't formed from people after death. When people become ghosts after death, if they remain in the human world, they can initially only use essence, energy, and spirit to cultivate, such as corpse energy or evil energy. But this type of ghost comes from the ghost realm, rarely seen in the human world, and ghosts in the ghost realm eat corpses to cultivate. So when it comes to the human world, it will also eat the corpses of the dead. They are all ghosts summoned to the human world by practitioners of dark magic, lured with corpses for their own use. They don't actively attack living people, but if someone encounters them, they won't eat vegetarian either. No way. Eating corpses is certainly not vegetarianism. Little Ma smirked. Was that corpse-eating demon summoned by an ancient sorcerer? Most likely. Yi Xiaoyang didn't hide his thoughts. The village chief once said this was the first time such an event had occurred in the village, happening 2 years ago. The sorcerer who came to Juyin Mountain was about 3 years ago. Perhaps he arrived not long ago and immediately tried to release the corpse-eating ghost. Xiao Ma asked, what benefit would releasing the corpse-eating ghost bring him? Yi Xiaoyang's expression became serious. He looked left and right, then said, since entering the village, I've been observing the surrounding terrain. There's a formation here with a radius of 200 miles. The accumulated resentment hasn't dissipated. I think the formation exists to help the corpse-eating ghost cultivate. But have you noticed? There aren't many people in this small village, and even fewer have died. The corpse-eating ghost dug up their ancestors' graves many years ago, devouring all the corpses. So why is it still here, not going somewhere else? Do you know why? Xiao Ma shook his head. It doesn't like going elsewhere, and it can't kill people. Yi Xiaoyang replied. It doesn't kill people because it's a corpse-eating ghost. According to the Ghost Realm contract, it can't actively kill people. But that doesn't mean it doesn't have the ability to kill. As for why it keeps occupying this place and not leaving, it's because it can't escape the formation. This formation looks like it's helping it find food and cultivate, but in reality, it's exploiting it, luring the souls it devours into the formation, constantly creating resentment. The person who set up the formation wants to use the powerful resentment to complete their plan. Xiao Ma slowly opened his mouth and asked, what plan? Yi Xiaoyang said, this is one of the 4 places on the map, plus the 7 grandmothers' temple located in the middle, a total of 5 formations, interconnected and combined together, called the 5 Ghost Mountain Crossing Formation. 5 Ghost Mountain Crossing Formation. Xiao Ma repeated again, suddenly remembering. Something said, so, that means there are 5 demons in total? The corpse-eating demon is just one of them. Seeing Yi Xiaoyang nod, Xiao Ma was shocked and hurriedly asked, what are the other 4 demons? I don't know either. First, we have to eliminate the corpse-eating demon and break this formation. After saying that, Yi Xiaoyang raised his hand and grabbed something on the head, pulling it down. In his hand was a middle-aged man struggling and begging. How dare you wander over my head? Yi Xiaoyang knew he was a vengeful ghost from the village, and he might not understand much, so there was nothing to ask. He directly used a soul exorcism talisman on him, then said to Xiao Ma, to deal with the corpse-eating demon, we first have to gather all the vengeful ghosts in this area, to avoid being controlled by the corpse-eating demon later, which would be very troublesome. You're in charge of this. Me? Xiao Ma was stunned. What are you kidding about? Listen to me. That was a recently deceased one. It doesn't understand the rules yet. The other demons are all afraid of me and have all run away. If I were to go catch them, I probably wouldn't finish in a whole night. I'll give you a lamp called the Soul Guiding Lamp. When the time comes, you carry the lamp through the village road, and the demons will automatically follow you. Chapter 136, Terrifying Ghost. Asterisk, this chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Little Ma waved his bell, strolling leisurely along the mountain path. Suddenly, a hunchbacked old man slowly flew towards him. This old man's face was as white as paper, his expression stiff, and his face looked like a zombie. He flew towards Little Ma and asked, where do you want to take me? Let's go, uncle. I'm taking you to reincarnation. Little Ma knew he was a ghost. Having experienced countless ghost expressions, he had developed some immunity to this type of ordinary ghost. He gave a thumbs up and pointed behind him. "Just follow me. Don't fall too far behind." The old ghost hesitated, saying, "But I don't want to go." "You have to go." Xiaoma tried ringing the bell a few times, and the old ghost sighed, went behind him, and repeatedly blew a stream of cold, ghostly air onto the back of his neck. Xiaoma couldn't turn around, so he could only loudly warn, "Uncle, I'm telling you, stay away from me. Don't blow air on my neck." Oh, then, sure enough, the air stopped blowing, and Xiaoma felt relieved. He thought to himself, "This old ghost is cooperating properly. I wish the other ghosts would cooperate as obediently as him." Down at the foot of the mountain, another female ghost appeared from nowhere, dressed in village girl's clothes, with braided hair. Xiaoma thought of the female ghost with the pigtails and gasped in shock. The female ghost turned her head, and to his surprise, it was a delicate face. Xiaoma breathed a sigh of relief, remembering that Yi Xiaoyang had said all ghosts couldn't harm him. He couldn't help but boldly whistle a few times. Chapter 137, Leading the Ghosts Out. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Little Ma breathed a sigh of relief, turning around to see a swarm of ghostly figures, startled. "Oh my God, there are so many of them." Among the ghosts, some understood the consequences of entering the soul-guiding path and began to hesitate. Yi Xiaoyang then loudly chanted the rebirth mantra, sending them flying into the spirit altar. Their figures slowly disappeared, heading to the underworld to report. Yi Xiaoyang breathed a sigh of relief. "Okay, now there are no more ghosts causing trouble. Let's go catch the corpse-eating ghosts." The two walked into the graveyard one after the other. Yi Xiaoyang remembered the burial location of the person. Roughly speaking, he intended to prepare a trap to catch the thief, and while the grave hadn't been desecrated yet, he would directly dig a snare and bury it. Yi Xiaoyang followed his impression and went to take a look, his eyes widening. A human grave. The body had been dug up, dragged out of the coffin, and lay sprawled on the ground. A gruesome pile of blood-soaked bones from the neck down. A horrifying sight. "It's over, the corpse-eating demon has arrived." Yi Xiaoyang stamped his foot and sighed. "Without bait, we have no way to lure it out. It's so troublesome." Xiaoma said, "What's the trouble? Can't we just find another corpse?" Yi Xiaoyang glanced at him. "Are you a pig? It's eaten all the corpses on the mountain. Where are we supposed to find another one? We can't kill anyone here." Xiaoma winced. "Oh dear, this is driving me crazy." Then, looking up, he saw Yi Xiaoyang staring at him with fiery eyes. He suddenly had a bad feeling and nervously exclaimed, "Why are you looking at me like that?" Yi Xiaoyang chuckled. "You're right. If we randomly pick a corpse, it can only be you. You pretend to be dead." His premonition came true, and Xiaoma quickly waved his hand, denying his words. No, I'm a living person. How could I pretend to be dead? The corpse-eating ghost isn't stupid. Have you ever seen one bite a living person?" Yi Xiaoyang said, "It's very simple." Chapter 138, The Five Ghosts Mountain Formation. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Little Ma risked his life, leaning and leaping high, using his shoulder and leg to pin down the corpse-eating ghost. Then, with his body as heavy as a 100-kilogram bomb, he kicked the ghost away, leaving it suspended in the air for a long time before falling to the ground. A loud boom echoed, and golden light immediately shot straight up into the sky, causing the corpse-eating ghost to tremble and groan in pain. Yi Xiaoyang and Little Ma looked down and suddenly realized the corpse-eating ghost had stepped on several talismans on the ground and was struck by lightning. Yi Xiaoyang smirked, feeling very pleased with himself for being well prepared. He raised his sword again and thrust it towards the ghost. His sword strike looked ferocious, but it was actually just a feint. Sure enough, the corpse-eating demon, intimidated by the divine sword's power, immediately retreated a few steps, activating the power of its remaining talismans. Soon, a whirlwind suddenly arose beneath its feet, shaking it and causing it to stumble and fall, trampling on several thunder-slaying talismans. Boom! Boom! The corpse-eating demon was struck by lightning again, trampling on even more talismans. Suddenly, wind and lightning enveloped its body, and it launched a frenzied attack. Xiaoma watched, his mouth agape. Damn it, little Yi, you're something. Yi Xiaoyang snorted, leaping forward. His sword swept across the corpse-eating demon, and a powerful divine force instantly sent it flying forward, past the altar. Its body became increasingly faint, finally disappearing. Dead? Xiaoma asked, bewildered. Struck back to the underworld. Yi Xiaoyang took a deep breath, squatted down, and gathered up the talismans, saving them for later use. Each talisman consumed a surge of spiritual power, so it couldn't be wasted. Xiaoma came over and anxiously asked, "Can it come back?" "This is a one-way ticket. If no one invites it, it won't come back." After saying that, Yi Xiaoyang glared at him fiercely. "I told you to pretend to be dead and wait for it to come to you, automatically activating the talisman. You didn't need to do anything. What good did it do to hit its head? Luckily I reacted in time. Otherwise it would have eaten you. I was too hasty then, and I was scared. Besides, you didn't explain clearly." Xiaoma awkwardly laughed it off, saying, "By the way, little Yi, was I the first person to hit a corpse-eating ghost on the head with a brick?" Yi Xiaoyang thought carefully. That was indeed the case. He rolled his eyes and said, "So what?" The corpse-eating ghosts had fled back to the ghost realm, and most of Chapter 139, Crying in the Toilet. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Xie Yuqing glared at Xiaoma and asked Yi Xiaoyang, "What is the 5 Ghost Mountain formation? Where are the other 4 places?" Yi Xiaoyang pointed to the middle position and said, "This is the dragon's back. The other 4 places combined with it are called the 5 Ghost Mountain formation. This position is Dragon's Tail 4 needles, striking the back to shake the heart. 1. The purpose is to make the dragon jump up. 1. Dragon's Tail 4 needles, striking the back to shake the heart. Stabbing 4 needles into the dragon's tail, striking the back to shake the heart." Xie Yuqing and Xiaoma looked at each other in bewilderment and asked in unison, "Jump up where?" "Listen to me completely. The 5 Ghost Mountain formation uses the characteristics of 5 ghosts at a place of supreme feng shui to change the feng shui eye, condense evil energy, and gradually form an evil dragon. At that time, this evil dragon, jumping up, becoming an evil dragon ascending to heaven." Xie Yuqing's eyes widened as she stared at him, almost forgetting to drive. "What evil dragon are you talking about? There are no dragons in this world." "There are, but the dragon I'm talking about here is a type of dragon vein energy, which can be understood as a kind of power. Once the 5 Ghost Mountain formation is formed, the evil dragon ascends to heaven, and that power will be seized by the formation's master. What happens then, I don't know either." Xie Yuqing and Xiaoma were silent for a long time. Xiaoma whispered, "Is it related to the 7 Grandmothers' Temple?" "It's very much related." Yi Xiaoyang pointed his finger at the dragon's back on the map and said, "The 7 Grandmothers' Temple is located on the dragon's back and is the eye of the 5 Ghost Mountain formation. The 7-old demon is also the 5th demon." Xiaoma scratched his head and said dejectedly, "Isn't the 7-old demon a demon? Why is it also a ghost?" Xie Yuqing glanced at him and said, "I guess that's a reasonable answer. As long as the cultivation is sufficient, it doesn't necessarily have to be a ghost." Chapter 140. Waiting for Someone 1. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display mode in your browser to read it. It was indeed the sound of a girl crying, but it was accompanied by a series of other strange sounds. Yi Xiaoyang sat down and looked towards the bathroom. Moonlight from outside the window shone into the mirror in the room. Under the transparent glass, one could almost see a girl with disheveled hair leaning towards the mirror, her face covered in blood, and her long tongue licking the mirror. The strange sound just now turned out to be the rustling sound of her tongue. Damn it, there really is a ghost. Seeing this scene in the middle of the night, Yi Xiaoyang was also a little surprised. He carefully looked at the ghost. Its ghostly aura was very weak, indicating that the girl's cultivation wasn't strong. This also explained why he hadn't detected any ghostly aura when he first entered the room. His own cultivation was too low, and hiding in the bathroom made him completely forget about the existence of this bathroom girl. Ghosts that scare people all have their own purposes, especially those that scare for their own benefit or are driven by some obsession. To understand what she wanted, Yi Xiaoyang pretended to be scared, cowering under the blanket. The female ghost, feeling satisfied that she had scared him, stopped crying. Her body crawled out through the glass mirror, and she crawled on the ground, wearing only a white nightgown, her eyes bulging, blood continuously flowing from her. Tears streamed from both eye sockets, making her look somewhat terrifying. P.S. I've fought many ghosts, now I'm teasing one. She's even wearing a sexy two-strap nightgown smiley face. Yi Xiaoyang pretended to be very scared, trembling as he asked, "What do you want to do?" "Get out of here." The female ghost pointed her finger at Yi Xiaoyang, coldly saying. A normal person would disappear immediately in this situation, but this was Yi Xiaoyang. Only when she grabbed his wrist did his frightened expression disappear. He looked up at the female ghost and calmly said, "Why do you want to chase me away?" His sudden change of expression stunned the female ghost. Chapter 141. Waiting for someone, 2. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display mode in your browser to read it. Yi Xiaoyang said, "Why would I come to you in the middle of the night without money?" Xiao Ma stood up abruptly, his spirits high. "Having money is enough. Tell me, what exactly do you want? Come to my room." Yi Xiaoyang led Xiao Ma to his room. At this time, Su Handan had transformed back into her normal form, her head bowed, sitting gracefully on the bed. Xiao Ma was momentarily stunned, his eyes wide as he looked at Yi Xiaoyang. "Little Yi, late at night. Why is there a girl in your room? What does this girl have to do with making money?" Yi Xiaoyang explained the reason, and only then did Xiao Ma realize that Su Handan was a female ghost. He observed her, sighed, and said, "Sister, listen to me. Little Ma, I'm a patriot. I've decided to go to that unscrupulous merchant's room and teach him a lesson." He rolled up his sleeves and was about to leave when Yi Xiaoyang pulled him back. "What's the point of beating him up? Beating him won't get you any money. Listen." After hearing his plan, Xiao Ma nodded repeatedly, his face beaming as he went out. A few minutes later, he directly led the still sleepy innkeeper to Yi Xiaoyang's room. As soon as he entered the room, the man froze, fearfully looking left and right, and anxiously said, "Ghosts? Don't talk nonsense. Be careful, I'll report you for defamation." Xiao Ma said, "Old man, admit it, it's not the first time someone has said something ghostly has been happening in this room." The innkeeper, suspecting they knew the inside story, didn't hide anything and nodded, saying, "It's true that there were ghosts here before, but I invited a sorcerer to perform a ritual and exorcise them all." He immediately pulled the two men to the door, saying, "See, there are no ghosts here." Chapter 142. Waiting for someone, 3. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display mode in your browser to read it. Back in the room, Yi Xiaoyang released Su Handan. Su Handan covered her face and laughed, saying, "Great master, you acted so well. If you really wanted to subdue me, I wouldn't be able to withstand a single move." Yi Xiaoyang smiled and said, "This 60,000 yuan is compensation for him not saving you before. Tell me where your house is. I'll send 30,000 yuan to your parents, and the remaining 30,000. Xiao Ma was afraid he would give all the money to someone else, so he quickly added, "That's right, we worked hard in the middle of the night. The remaining 30,000 yuan is as labor fee." Su Handan's eyes were red, and she kept saying thank you. Yi Xiaoyang said again, "Give me the name and address of your boyfriend. Rest here first, and we'll help you find him tomorrow morning. I'll bring him to you, okay?" After saying that, he winked at Xiao Ma, packed his things, and the two of them went to the next room. 30,000 yuan. Xiao Ma chuckled. "Xiao Yezi, you're overacting. I think next time we can do the same, or find another ghost to help." Yi Xiaoyang glared at him. "There are gods watching from 3 feet above your head. If you dare cause trouble in the mortal world, you'll definitely be punished in the underworld. If you're not afraid of going into a cauldron of boiling oil, then go ahead." Xiao Ma's face turned pale at the words, "going into a cauldron of boiling oil," and he asked, "Then what if you tricked him out of 30,000? 30,000 isn't a trick. For a ghost exorcising sorcerer, collecting money is a matter of course. Otherwise, how would we make a living?" We do as much as we charge. We helped him avoid misfortune and chased away the female ghost. 30,000 is already too cheap. Chapter 143. Ghostly aura envelopes the hospital. Asterisk, this chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Xiaoma glanced at Su Handan and continued. He didn't come to see you that night because his parents locked him up. After he heard you were dead, he naturally didn't come to the meeting place. His parents were afraid your spirit would come looking for him, so they hired a sorcerer to perform a ritual at home, pasting a talisman on the front door to prevent you from coming. Wang Xiaofei said he still liked you, but he also said that the dead are gone, and he couldn't remain single for life because of you. So he gradually fell in love with the girl his mother introduced him to. 3 months after you died, they got married. If it weren't for his wife being pregnant, I would have slapped him to death. Su Handan sat listlessly on the bed, looking at herself in the mirror, and said with a bitter smile, "Then there's no need to worry about how I look, just wear the clothes." "What's the point of meeting him now?" Xie Yuqing advised. "You're dead. He's found a new lover. Although it's a bit early and seems heartless, and besides, that other lover. But it's not incomprehensible." Xiaoma chimed in, grumbling. "Damn it, if it were just that, why would I be so angry? The problem is, I told him the truth, and he believed it. But then he said that humans and ghosts are different, and he didn't want to see you. Besides, he already has a wife, so it's not convenient to meet. I told him he just wanted to see you for a little while, but he stubbornly ignored me, brushed everything aside, saying there was no point in meeting you anyway." Chapter 144. Disciple. Asterisk, this chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. "Great Master, don't you remember me? I'm Su Yaqian." The girl approached him, looking up at him. "Back then, at the village chief's house, my mother and I helped deliver Xiaofang's baby, and we encountered the ghost brother." Yi Xiaoyang patted the back of his head. "Ah, so it's you, little sister. Your mother was so frightened she fainted. How is she now?" "She's fine now." "Master Yi, what are you doing here?" Su Yaqian interrupted. "Hunting ghosts, right?" Without waiting for his reply, she frowned and continued. "Master Yi, there really are ghostly occurrences at our hospital. People are currently panicking and fearful. You must investigate thoroughly." Yi Xiaoyang's heart stirred slightly. He glanced at Xie Yuqing and asked Su Yaqian, "What?" "Shu." Su Yaqian looked around, then whispered, "The leadership doesn't allow us to publicize this. If you want to investigate, come find me secretly." Yi Xiaoyang said, "I almost forgot to ask you, do you work here?" "I'm a nursing intern in the obstetrics and gynecology department." "Oh, I'm late." "Master Yi, I'll be waiting for you to find me." After saying that, she dashed into the hospital. Yi Xiaoyang watched her fleeing and laughed. "This girl is quite something." Xie Yuqing pouted. "You're focusing on the wrong thing. She said this hospital has ghosts, not that it's related to that formation. 8 out of 10 times it is. Let's go. Let's talk to the director." The two went to the dormitory and found the director's office by the sign. The hospital director was a man in his 40s named Zheng Xiaofei, with a refined appearance and wearing glasses. Chapter 145. Continuing the Yin-Yang Rebirth. Asterisk, this chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Zheng Xiaofei clasped his hands and said, "I wouldn't dare offend you. In public, I address you as Mr. Yi." "Mr. Yi, you don't know, but now, in the entire Stone City, anyone involved in the world of magic knows your great name." Mr. Yi, upon arriving in Stone City, pacified Dormitory Number 4, which had existed for 70 years, and easily subdued 100 ghost lair that other sorcerers only dared to approach, not dare to enter. Who wouldn't be impressed? Yi Xiaoyang waved his sleeve and said, "I don't want to hear baseless rumors. That was absolutely not easy. I almost died inside." Zheng Xiaofei laughed heartily. "Regardless, Mr. Yi has already achieved great success and fame. Currently, many wealthy people in Stone City want to invite you to perform feng shui rituals and consecrations, offering exorbitant prices. He's highly respected, but unfortunately, no one can find him." They went to ask Old Gua, but he said his schedule was completely booked and they'd have to wait a month or so. Yi Xiaoyang remained silent, only thinking to himself, "Damn, I've become a celebrity." This feeling isn't so bad. After we dismantle the 5 Ghost Mountain Formation, I'll ask old Gua to help me with business dealings, make some money, and get some support from friends. Stop rambling, Director Zheng. Let's start with the spooky story. What exactly happened? Zheng Xiaofei took a deep breath and said, "It's hard to explain verbally. Let me show you a video clip. I have one on my computer." He returned to his desk, opened his computer, found a video clip, and played it. It was a video recording of a delivery room. In the video, doctors and nurses were assisting a woman in childbirth. To protect her identity, her information had been blurred out. Everything was normal at the time. The woman was giving birth smoothly, but after 20 minutes, Zheng Xiaofei said, scrolling the mouse to a point about 10 minutes later. Look, the expectant mother is staring at the ceiling, her face showing not only suffering but also fear. In the video, Yi Xiaoyang saw the expectant mother with her mouth open and eyes wide, staring at the ceiling, but the camera didn't capture that position. 3 minutes later, the delivery room door was suddenly pushed open, and a short, hunched figure walked to the side of the bed. A red headscarf covered her head, and a lock of gray hair peeked out. Judging by appearances, this was likely an elderly woman. Chapter 146. The Monster in the Corpse Storage Room. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Too evil, and why must they kill pregnant women? Xie Yuqing said, "The pregnant woman and the child are mother and child, born of nature. If the pregnant woman doesn't die, it won't be able to completely control the spirit. Really despicable. Does the king of hell not care?" Tavu Tin said angrily. Yi Xiaoyang glanced at her and replied, "Don't talk nonsense about matters of the underworld that you don't know. Anyway, as long as it comes to the mortal world, we sorcerers will pay attention to it. The good news is, it's definitely one of the 5 ghosts we're looking for. The bad news, it can conceal its aura and become invisible, making it very difficult to find." Yi Xiaoyang said things that Zheng Xiaofei had never heard before, and he clasped his hands in admiration. "I completely rely on Mr. Yi. As long as we can capture the receiving life-giving woman and bring peace back to the hospital, I will definitely send Mr. Yi a worthy reward." Yi Xiaoyang nodded. If it were elsewhere, it would be very difficult to capture the receiving life-giving woman, but it's already within the 5 Ghosts Mountain Formation, becoming a pawn in someone else's hands. The stronger its cultivation, the stronger the ghostly energy of the formation, and it itself cannot escape the formation, so we still have a chance to capture it. Zheng Xiaofei was terrified when he heard him say that, saying, "The receiving woman has such powerful cultivation. Could there be anything that can subdue it and imprison it in a formation?" Yi Xiaoyang snorted and said, "In the boundless ghost realm, there are still many evil spirits stronger than the receiving woman. However, I am very curious now, who is behind controlling this 5 Ghost Mountain Formation? Why didn't he come to stop me from breaking the formation?" This chapter has image content. If you cannot see the chapter content, please turn on your browser's image display mode to read. The 2 people walked around the hospital to observe again. Deep Thu Dong memorized all the characteristics in every corner of his mind before leaving the hospital. Looking at the clock, it was noon. Deep Thu Duong and Tuma decided to go to a nearby restaurant to eat and drink. Just passing the obstetrics department, Deep Thu Duong immediately met Hua Na Guin sitting in the on-call room. When Hua Na Guin saw that he was really coming to find her, she was extremely excited. She happily told him to wait a bit, ran in to change, then followed him to eat. Along the way, there were many nurses curiously turning their heads to look at Deep Thu Duong, then smiling at Hua Na Guin. Some were so generous that they ran up to tease them. "It's just a joke, Deep Tien Su, brother. Forget it." Hua Na Guin blushed and said, "Who said we're almost the same age?" Deep Thu Duong smiled. "Luckily I followed you and no one thought I was dating a rich man. But don't call me Deep Tien Su. I'm older than you. Just call Thu Duong brother." Hua Na Guin happily accepted. Tuma went to the restaurant first. Deep Thu Duong called to ask Tuma where to eat, then brought Hua Na Guin there, then introduced the 2 people. Everyone was young, with a generous personality, so in just a moment they became close to each other. While eating, the 3 of them told about the strange event at the hospital. The video clip that Deep Phu Duong saw earlier was not distributed by the director to the doctors and nurses because he was afraid of causing confusion and crisis in the hospital. So Hwana Guin did not watch it, however. Hwana Guin still knows that things that day were not as simple as they seemed. At that time, I was really cold. Hearing Deep Phu Duong's question, she immediately answered, her eyes showing fear. I clearly remember the moment the door opened, followed by a chilling feeling down my spine. Extremely scary, like an invisible person was pushing the door, then standing next to me. Hwana Guin took a cold breath and said, also, when the pregnant woman was bleeding, I accidentally saw the pool of blood at the foot of the bed move slightly, and it seemed to have decreased a bit. A little bit. It looked like something was being sucked in. I don't know if it was an illusion or not, but I saw a woman's shadow reflecting out from under the pool of blood. No one believed me when I told them, but suddenly a lot of banknotes appeared in the hallway outside the delivery room, scattered all over the ground. We were chased away by the principal and didn't let anyone see it. Brother Phu Duong, what happened? Yeah, well, it's just a spooky story. Deep Phu Duong thought for a moment. After all, there were still many things that needed her support, so he couldn't hide it from her. So he simply told the truth of everything to Hwana Guin, and at the same time told it to Chuma. After listening, the two of them were both surprised and speechless. Hwana Guin leaned back in her chair, her face pale, and she muttered, Brother Phu Duong, if you don't say it, just say it. It will make me reminisce. Until that day, thinking about it makes me scared. Luckily, Brother Phu Duong came. That demon will quickly be destroyed. It's not that easy. Deep Phu Duong smiled bitterly and asked her, have there been any similar cases of pregnant women dying like this before? I just entered the hospital not long ago, plus last week, I saw 2 cases. This hospital is the largest hospital in the town. All the surrounding villages come here to give birth. The story of women bleeding during childbirth happens several times every year, but they can all be cured in time. Speaking of this, she tilted her head and thought for a moment. After a while, he continued, as for the incidents of pregnant women, I heard that in the past 3 years, there have been a total of 4 incidents. In hospitals of similar size, the rate is also very high. Deep Phu Duong slowly nodded. If the calculation is correct, considering that the unexpected events are all caused by Teep Am San Ba, then it has at least 4 or 5 heroic spirits and ghosts. If it is a frontal attack, it will be very difficult to deal with. Deep Phu Duong silently considered that if that were the case, it was possible that he would still have to deal with each heroic spirit. That's right. Is this the spooky thing you mentioned last time? Deep Phu Duong asked Hwana Guin. Hwana Guin replied, it's just one of them. Recently, our hospital also had an extremely strange incident. Even though no one died, it was enough to scare everyone. Deep Phu Duong nodded, waiting for her to finish. Where should I start? Hwana Guin thought for a while, and then said, so tell me what you remember. Our whole town doesn't have a funeral home, so the morgue room at our hospital not only stores patients who passed away in the hospital, but people who died unexpectedly in other places are brought here, waiting for their families to receive them. So the body storage room here usually contains quite a few bodies. Starting last month, every morning at work, everyone discovered on the operating table in the delivery room a dead female body. The body used its own blood to apply blush and lipstick, and the eyebrows were also carefully drawn, but not with an eyebrow pen. But, speaking of this, Hwana Guin suddenly frowned, a miserable expression on her face, using the eyeballs of the dead person to make a black liquid. Damn it! Chuma pulled the trash can over and bent down to vomit. All the pork in his stomach flowed out. Outside, Deep Phu Duong also felt his stomach churning, quickly took a sip of tea, forced it down, and continued asking, where did the body come from? The body was from the hospital's corpse storage room. I don't know who brought it to the delivery room. Hwana Guin continued. The director quickly turned on the camera to see what happened. As a result, all the cameras at night were muted, not seeing anything. The director ran to the security room to ask Mr. No, and he said he fell asleep that night and didn't know what happened. To prevent unwanted incidents from happening, the director also required us to lock all the delivery room doors at night and hand over the keys to the on-duty staff. As a result, on the second day of checking the room, the same thing happened again. Still a female corpse lying on the operating table, using the crushed eyeball to draw her eyebrows, using the tip of her tongue to brush blood on her pink cheeks and paint her lips. Tuma shook her head, frowned, and said, "Who has such a strong taste, likes female corpses?" Hua Guin continued. This time the impact was big. All the cameras in the hospital were checked, and in the end they were not detected. What appears? Moreover, at night, there was someone in the nurse's office, firmly saying that no one came to give the key, and the security guard in the body room also firmly said that there was nothing unusual. After that, the hospital sent 4 more guards and told 2 to guard the body room, 2 to guard the delivery room. As a result, early the next morning, the body appeared in the delivery room again. The guards all said they didn't know why they fell asleep. The whole hospital had no choice but to guess that there was something wrong with the body, so at night they sent more people to guard the place. Do you know what happened? The next morning, everyone fell asleep again. Then there was another female contestant in the delivery room. The hospital had no choice but to give up, so this happened every day, but did not cause any further damage. The whole courtyard had no choice but to be silent. They could only call someone to protect this place and tell everyone to keep it a secret to keep things quiet. Nowadays, every early morning, everyone has formed the habit of going to the delivery room to carry the body. On the operating table back to the body storage room. P/S. I don't understand what Old Man Tan Tu had in mind to write such a disgusting story. Chapter 148. Who gave me the paper? 1. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display mode in your browser to read it. After hearing Su Yaqian's explanation, Yi Xiaoyang and Xiao Ma looked at each other with disbelief. This matter was truly bizarre. Unexpectedly, Zheng Xiaofei called to report that he had arrived at the airport and was currently sitting in the waiting room. "Mr. Yi, time is short, and there's one more thing I haven't mentioned yet, the morgue in our hospital. I've already heard about it." Yi Xiaoyang interrupted him, telling him what Su Yaqian had told him. Zheng Xiaofei laughed and said, "So, Mr. Yi already has connections at the hospital? That's good. It saves a lot of time. I know the general situation. Is there anything else you need to add?" Zheng Xiaofei paused and said, "Earlier, the cameras were blocked by the ghost eye, so I couldn't see anything. I had to go to the morgue myself to stand guard overnight. It was exactly past 2 in the morning when I saw the room filled with demonic energy, so strong that I couldn't resist it. I didn't have time to see the opponent's form before I fainted. Fortunately, it didn't harm me." Yi Xiaoyang said, "I'll go check it out tonight and let you know if anything happens." "Mr. Yi, be careful." "Haha, I misspoke. Although that evil spirit is strong, for Mr. Ye's cultivation level, it's just a piece of cake." Yi Xiaoyang said nothing. "Don't flatter me. I'm not the best in the world either." Seeing him hang up, Su Yaqian quickly asked, "Did Director Zheng just call you?" "Yes. So what?" "Oh, how troublesome." Su Yaqian said worriedly. "The director told us to keep this a secret, not to tell anyone, but you just told him that I told you." Yi Xiaoyang smiled and said, "Don't worry, Director Zheng not only didn't blame you, but also told you to cooperate with the investigation. When everything is over, he will promote you to head nurse." This chapter has image content. If you cannot see the chapter content, please turn on your browser's image display mode to read. Chu Ma's face turned pale as he looked at Deep Fu Duong and said, "Don't scare me, little Deep. I threw that paper on the ground. Come and see." After speaking, he turned around and went into the toilet, turned on the light, saw no light, suddenly writhed, quickly took the flashlight and shined it on the ground, groping to find the toilet paper. The student had thrown away a moment ago. When he looked closely, his legs immediately felt like they were about to go weak. Toilet paper had turned into Tao Chi 1.1 Tao Chi, also known as paper, straw paper, used straw as raw material to make. Rough in nature, people often used it to burn like paper money, gold and silver. Oh my god, it was clearly toilet paper just now. Why? Little Deep, little Deep. Qiuma raised his head and saw that the main door of the WC next to the sink had been closed for some time. The WC became quiet and cold. There was no longer a trace of Deep Fu Duong. Suddenly, a bad premonition suddenly arose. Qiuma, without saying a word, immediately rushed to kick the bathroom door, but no matter what he did, he could not open it. At that moment, he heard the sound of flushing from a toilet. "Water, there's someone in the toilet." Chuma suddenly got goosebumps, suddenly woke up, turned his head slightly to look. A series of toilets had the door half closed. The inside was pitch black. Too deep, little deep. Chuma pressed his back against the main door and gently took a stance, but no movement was heard outside. At that moment, the sound of water being released once again rang out. Chuma's heart suddenly twitched. Fear gradually turned into anger, thinking to himself that Deep Phu Duong didn't know where he had gone. If it was a disaster, then it couldn't be avoided. Just standing still in one place was not the way. So he used all his courage to go to that room to see what the hell it was. At best, just fight once. It would be better than standing here worried and scared. More besides, he remembered that Mr. Quach and Deep Phu Duong once said that if you want to be a magician, you must first have courage. Now is an opportunity to practice your courage. Thinking so, Chuma took a deep breath, slowly walked to the front of a room, used his foot to kick hard on the first door, looked in, and saw nothing. He took another deep breath, used his foot to kick hard on the second door. A total of 5 toilet stalls. 4 of them had been kicked in by Chuma. There was nothing left, only the last one remained. The door was tightly closed. Chuma stood outside the door, knowing that if he hesitated he would lose confidence. He kicked straight at the last door. The door opened. Nothing. Chuma took a deep breath, starting to feel too brave. Unexpectedly, a figure suddenly jumped down from the ceiling. It was a dark, chubby, and dirty child. 2 blood-red eyes opened wide to look at him, opened his small mouth and grinned, walking step by step towards him. In both of his hands was a piece of paper tissue covered in wet blood. He said in a childish and cruel voice, "Brother, give me some paper. Brother, give me some paper." With a thud, Chuma sat down on the ground, unable to stand up. He kept dragging himself step by step backwards, trying to drag himself to the corner of the wall. The child held out the stack of papers and giggled as he walked forward, then peeled off a layer of bloody paper, pasted on Chuma's face. Chuma quickly raised his hand and pulled it down, but unexpectedly discovered that the toilet paper was stuck to his face and couldn't be removed no matter what. "Brother, give me the paper." The child continued to hold the paper and stick it on Chuma's face. Chuma felt more and more difficult to breathe, fell on the ground, his hands wavering, screaming miserably. "Wow, brother, can you get some more paper, brother?" The child stood in front of him, biting his finger, thinking for a moment. "If you don't take it, take this." Then it raised its hand to its face, pulled it with a whoosh sound. A bloody layer of skin fell to the ground. It bent down to pick up the piece of skin, pasted it on Chuma's face. The universe is infinite. A piece of red line suddenly flew from behind and wrapped around its neck. A magic formation struck, a red light exploded. The child screamed in agony. His whole body flowed with streams of black energy. Chuma felt his face suddenly relax. All the paper on the area of his face also fell. He suddenly gasped, slowly raised his head to look back. Deep Phu Duong was pulling a red string and tied it tightly around the child's neck. Although it didn't seem like he had the upper hand, Chuma was a little more at ease, leaning his back against the wall, saying plaintively, "Little Deep, you came at the right time. As long as Deep Phu Duong is here, no matter what the situation is, he won't worry. Come." The ghost, under the tightness of the red line, constantly changed shape, his arms stretched out, grabbing towards Deep Phu Duong. Deep Phu Duong disdainfully threw a mint coin aimed straight at its demon gate. The ghost brother let out a pitiful cry. His whole body trembled. He retracted his hands, trying to pry Deep Phu Duong's hand away. But Deep Phu Duong's hand seemed to be glued to its forehead, not moving at all. His mouth kept chanting the ghost mantra. Duk Mao also continuously emitted golden light, chasing away the black layer of demonic energy, waiting for the demonic energy in its body to dissipate. Deep Phu Duong then let go of the Duk Mao coin and stuck a spiritual talisman on it. The back of its neck, then calmed down, exhaled, glanced at Chuma, and said, "How's it going?" "I was almost scared to death." Chuma glanced at the stack of blood-stained papers on the ground, suddenly felt nauseous, muttered, "Just like those toiletries, too. In the women's toilet, too. Doctor, no notes," smiley face. Chuma went to the sink, turned on the faucet, and washed her face for more than half a day before calming down. A person like him who usually doesn't smoke suddenly lit a cigarette, took a deep breath, slowly restored the strength in his limp body, remembered the horrifying incident just now in the toilet, still scared, looked at Deep Thudong reproachfully. Where did you die just now? Why didn't you follow me into the toilet? Deep Thudong acted innocent, telling Tu Ma that when he was about to open the toilet and go in, suddenly there was a heroic spirit, rushed from inside, ran downstairs. He quickly chased after him, so he didn't know there was still one person inside the toilet. So can you catch up? One step slower, let him escape through the staircase door. I can't get through the wall. Deep Thudong shrugged. I came to look for you and discovered that there was something unusual about the toilet. I just happened to notice that the heroic spirit was paying attention to you, making it easy for me to catch it. Its cultivation base is not deep, but its movements are sharp. After running away, it is very difficult to chase. Tu Ma said, Are they the heroic spirits of Teep Am San Ba? Deep Thudong nodded. They appeared at night to absorbing positive energy for the purpose of cultivation, but the hospital has been sealed by a formation, so it can only appear on this floor. Tu Ma suddenly understood, thought for a moment, then asked, Then why are the other people in the hospital okay, such as the nurses on duty, patients, etc., but it only wants to kill me? Deep Thudong rolled his eyes and said, If people see it, they run away. At most they will be inhaled, just a little bit of positive energy. You, on the contrary, were bold enough to take the initiative to look for it. It thought you were a magician, so of course it would look for you. Tu Ma paused for a moment, cursing, Damn, I thought I was being trained to be courageous. I didn't expect it would be like this. If I had known earlier, I would have preferred to stand still and wait for you. Now that you've caught a demon, how are you going to deal with it? The evil spirit has been transformed in its body, but only by cutting off their thoughts can they return to their bodies. Tu Ma nodded. Fuck him. Fuck that old devil. Xiao Duong brother. Tu Ma brother. Are you guys inside? Huan Aguin's voice rang out from outside the bathroom. The two of Deep Thudong heard it, and quickly pushed the door out of the room. Chapter 150. Disguising the Female Corpse. Asterisk This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Su Yaqian didn't know what was going on. Seeing them still in the restroom, she said irritably, What are you guys doing in there for so long? Don't worry, we're not gay. Xiaoma replied. Yi Xiaoyang glared at him and asked Su Yaqian, What's wrong? Su Yaqian hurriedly said, Just now, the two guards watching the morgue suddenly fell asleep. Only old Wu was awake. He went into the room, and I don't know what he was doing inside. Yi Xiaoyang was stunned and immediately said, Go downstairs. The three of them ran down the stairs quickly. As soon as they reached the first floor, Su Yaqian suddenly went limp and fell to the ground, asleep. Xiaoma was shocked. What's wrong? Ghost energy. Yi Xiaoyang looked up at the upper floor and said, The entire floor is filled with ghostly energy. It has a soul-capturing effect, but it's not very strong. People inside the rooms aren't affected, but as soon as they leave, they'll definitely fall into a deep sleep. No wonder no one has seen anything happen these past few days. Xiaoma murmured, suddenly looking surprised and asking, Why didn't I faint? Yi Xiaoyang looked at the faint golden light emanating from his chest and said, You have a protective amulet that I've blessed. The ghostly energy can't do anything to you. Really? Xiaoma proudly touched the amulet, then remembered something and asked, Then why was that spirit still able to chase me? Damn it, do you think a protective amulet is omnipotent? Stop asking nonsense. Yi Xiaoyang looked at Su Yaqian lying on the ground. She can't be left here. You carry her and follow me. Be careful to keep it a secret. Yi Xiaoyang quickly drew two concealing qi talismans and gave them to Xiao Ma to stick on himself and Su Yaqian. Then he ran out into the corridor, using the Maoshan Lingkong technique to fly like a bird, his feet not touching the ground, heading towards the morgue. The speed was very fast, yet silent and without a sound. Chapter 151. The In-Receiving Mother Appears. 1. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display mode in your browser to read it. At this point, Yi Xiaoyang felt his heart sink. He turned to look at Xiao Ma, whose eyes were also red and teary. He was naturally very emotional. Why didn't the other spirits do the same? Xiao Ma muttered, The other spirits died long ago. The maternal feelings in their subconscious, or rather, the obsessions from the past, were taken away by the receiving goddess, deceiving them into thinking it was their mother. The receiving goddess knows this child is looking for its mother, so why didn't she stop it? Yi Xiaoyang shook his head. She doesn't have enough power to control all these spirits yet, and there's no need to completely control them, as that would cause them psychological trauma. She's already started the process. In half a month, the spirits will be completely under her control. So I guess the spirit we saw only left its mother less than 2 weeks ago, that's why. Yi Xiaoyang sighed silently, not daring to say anything more. Xiaoma cracked his knuckles, gritting his teeth and saying, "Damn receiving goddess, if I get the chance, I'll definitely beat you to death." Xiaoma's words were quite loud, audible to the spirits in the room. Okay. It suddenly turned its head, its eyes turning blood red, and a black, demonic aura emanated from its body. It crouched down, assuming a defensive posture. Xiaoma immediately waved his hand, saying to it, "Calm down, kid. We just want to help you." Yi Xiaoyang glared at him. Right now, it only knows that we're the ones who ruined its mother's soul-summoning ceremony. It would be a miracle if it understood what you're saying. Xiaoma looked bewildered. So what do we do? Capture it first. After saying that, Yi Xiaoyang immediately cut his middle finger, quickly drew a blood essence talisman, and handed it to Xiaoma, gritting his teeth as he instructed. You carry the nurse into the room. If the receiving goddess comes, remember to stick the talisman on the door so she can't get out. Okay, leave it to me. Xiaoma nodded, then hugged Su Yaqian and walked out the door. Looking at Yi Xiaoyang walking towards the spirit, he called out, "Little Yi, don't kill it." Chapter 152. The receiving woman appears. 2. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display mode in your browser to read it. This time, the receiving woman was prepared. With a cold snort, the black chain in her hand transformed into a large snake, twisting its body and wrapping around the talisman. With a boom, the talisman exploded and fell to the ground. The receiving woman was pushed backward, her whole body emitting streams of surging red blood energy. Seeing that the receiving woman was no longer invisible, Yi Xiaoyang immediately cut his fingertip, wrote the character "sac" color on the bagua mirror, chanted a spell, and forcefully slapped the mirror. A beam of purple light shot from the mirror's surface directly towards the stream of blood. Yi Xiaoyang drew out his 7-star dragon spring sword, intending to pursue, but his legs suddenly stiffened. Looking down, he saw a pool of black blood surging from nowhere, and a pair of hands emerged from the pool, grabbing his ankles and pulling him down with all their might. Then, a blood-soaked woman with a ferocious face emerged from the pool of blood and lunged at him. The Blood Fox Ghost. It was the demon subordinate of the receiving goddess, summoned by her at this crucial moment to fight. Yi Xiaoyang struggled with it for a while, then briefly raised his right hand. The purple light on the 7-star dragon spring sword flashed, slicing the Blood Fox Ghost in two, transforming it into a pool of diluted blood that merged into the pool below, instantly disappearing. Yi Xiaoyang gasped for breath, looking up. The purple light and blood energy had ceased clashing, and the dark figure inside the room quickly flew out. Yi Xiaoyang sighed. If it hadn't been for the Blood Fox Ghost's intervention, he probably would have subdued or killed the receiving goddess. This demon knows how to conceal itself by holding its breath. If it escapes, catching it in the future won't be easy. Yi Xiaoyang sat down to rest, collecting the 5 emperor coins and magical artifacts that had fallen to the ground. Turning around, he saw that the Blood Fox demon had been annihilated, its soul and spirit scattered. The pool of blood on the ground was only a part of its soul, not its entire body. When its soul and spirit were scattered, everything vanished. Xiaoma and Su Yaqian woke up one after another, and seeing the ground covered with burnt talisman ashes, they were terrified and hurriedly asked what had happened. Yi Xiaoyang briefly recounted the events to them. Chapter 153, Finding the Possessed Person. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Before going to bed, Yi Xiaoyang received a phone call from Zhou Jingru asking about the situation over the past 2 days. Yi Xiaoyang briefly recounted everything to her. After listening, Zhou Jingru repeatedly cautioned him to be careful, her voice extremely serious. Brother Xiaoyang, if you need help, you must contact me first. I know. Feeling warm inside from the girl's concern, Yi Xiaoyang said. By the way, little lowly. Oh no, has Tan Xiaohui returned from Sichuan yet? He stuck out his tongue, realizing he had let slip something. Xiaoma kept calling Tan Xiaohui little lowly, so much so that he got used to it and almost forgot her real name. Chu Jingru didn't mind, saying, I called you to let you know about this. She's coming back tomorrow. Do you want her to come and help you? No need. Yi Xiaoyang thought for a moment and said, Tell her to go find Xie Yuqing to explain the situation with that sorcerer, help her catch him, and investigate the 7 Grandmothers' Temple for some information. Then call me. Chu Jingru agreed, reminded him again, and hung up. The next morning, Yi Xiaoyang and Xiao Ma went to buy breakfast, then went to the obstetrics and gynecology department of the hospital. As soon as he appeared, he was immediately greeted warmly by the head of the department, because, this morning, for the first time, the delivery room of the obstetrics and gynecology department did not have any female corpses disguised as corpses. Everyone knew that this was related to the young man invited by Director Zhang. Oh my God, look at that sorcerer. He's so young and handsome. Yi Xiaoyang heard the whispers around him and saw at least 4 or 5 nurses staring wide-eyed from the window of the duty room. He suddenly felt his face flush, and hurriedly, he bowed his head and followed the headmaster. Entering an office, the head of department poured him a glass of water, chatted with him, and then, following the initial arrangement, called Su Yeqian over. Not long after Su Yeqian arrived, Xiaoma also arrived, nodded at Yi Xiaoyang, and said nothing. Brother Xiaoyang, the girls in the department know you're my friend, so they want to ask for your phone number. They said they want to invite you to tell their fortunes. Would you be willing? Yi Xiaoyang awkwardly scratched his head, not saying anything. Seeing this, Xiaoma immediately chimed in, saying, Little Yi is busy, let me do it. I know how to read birth charts. 1. Wenwang Bagua. 2. Ziwei Do Shu, and Physiognomy. Chapter 154, Finding the Possessed Person, 2. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. At closing time, doctors and nurses began to leave the hospital. Some changed their clothes, while others still wore their white lab coats. Dr. Zhang, chiefly Dr. Liu, Su Yeqian stood under a tree opposite the hospital, pointing out the names of each person leaving. To avoid forgetting, at Yi Xiaoyang's suggestion, she typed all the names of the obstetrics and gynecology department staff onto a laptop. Each time someone came along, she removed their name. Half an hour later, the list on the laptop only had 4 people left, 1 male and 3 females. Dr. Liu was just appointed as an intern here and is in the dormitory. The other 2 are temporarily residing in the dormitory. Su Yeqian looked up at Yi Xiaoyang. What do we do now? It's simple. Yi Xiaoyang clapped his hands. Invite him out for dinner and tell him, today is your birthday. Su Yeqian was stunned, blushing, and said with difficulty, It's okay with a woman, but a man. I've never spoken to him before. If I casually ask him out, he might think I have feelings for him. Xiaoyang brother, don't ruin me. Yi Xiaoyang scratched his head. It was indeed a difficult problem. He pointed to Xiao Ma. Tell him to go with you. Having a man with you will prevent him from misunderstanding that you like him. Su Yeqian glanced at Xiao Ma, then looked at Yi Xiaoyang with a pitiful expression. He won't misunderstand, but he'll suspect I'm dating a rich guy. Hey, little sister, you can't say that. Look at me, Xiao Ma brother, with my oval face, double eyelids, and dazzlingly handsome face. Xiao Ma's self-esteem was severely damaged, and he loudly argued with Su Yeqian about his appearance. Su Yeqian completely ignored him, her eyes like a puppy looking at Yi Xiaoyang. Brother Xiaoyang, come with me. Okay. Yi Xiaoyang pulled Xiao Ma aside and whispered comfortingly. Actually, you're very handsome. It's just that your beauty isn't very obvious. It's just that her eyesight is a bit off compared to normal people. After that, he successfully persuaded Xiao Ma to go do something else important. P.S. Oh my God, fate. Brother Xiaoyang is so handsome and has so many admirers. Chapter 155, Setting up the Battle Formation. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, Please enable image display in your browser to read it. Before going to sleep, Yi Xiaoyang called Zheng Xiaofei and told him everything. Despite Zheng Xiaofei's fear, he said, "You must introduce me to someone who will be directly in charge of tomorrow's surgery, following my arrangements." Zheng Xiaofei thought for a moment and said, "No problem. I'll contact him and tell him to call you." 10 minutes later, a man claiming to be Fang Jin called Yi Xiaoyang, saying he was the head of the obstetrics and gynecology department, arranged by Director Zheng to cooperate with him and follow his instructions. Yi Xiaoyang didn't hesitate and asked him to show him the CCTV footage from earlier that afternoon. Fang Jin agreed and arranged to meet him at the hospital gate an hour later. When Yi Xiaoyang arrived, he saw a man and a woman standing in front of the hospital gate. Both were over 30 years old. The man was Fang Jin, with a refined appearance and polite demeanor. The woman was the head nurse whom Yi Xiaoyang had met yesterday. She had a decent figure and was wearing a short dress, black stockings, and high heels. Yi Xiaoyang couldn't help but secretly glance at her legs. Beautiful legs. Our houses are across from the hospital, so we arrived very quickly. Fang Jin introduced them briefly. This is the head nurse of the obstetrics and gynecology department. We all have a good relationship with Director Zheng, so if Mr. Yi needs anything, please feel free to tell us directly. Yi Xiaoyang thanked them and followed them to the observation room. On the way, he asked the head nurse a few questions to confirm his suspicions, and then they reviewed the camera footage together. Yi Xiaoyang also gave Fang Jin some instructions for the next day. Finally, the three of them left the hospital, and Yi Xiaoyang returned to his inn to sleep. Early the next morning, to avoid attracting attention, Yi Xiaoyang had Xiao Ma and Old Guo follow behind while he went to the hospital first. As soon as they reached the ground floor of the obstetrics and gynecology department, Su Yaqian immediately greeted him, nodding at Yi Xiaoyang and leading him to the duty room. Halfway there, she leaned close to his ear and whispered, "That thin girl in the thin sweater is Wu Dan." Yi Xiaoyang pretended to casually glance at the girl. Chapter 156. Capturing the Demon Woman. 1. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display mode in your browser to read it. Little Ma waved his hand to ward off the air, frowning as he asked, "Little Yi, I usually see you rarely use black dog blood. Why did you use it this time?" Black dog blood is effective against all kinds of evil spirits. It damages the seventh soul of the demon, preventing it from recovering. It is extremely cruel and vicious, so it is usually unnecessary to use it. Yi Xiaoyang slightly curved the corners of his lips, smiling faintly. It's just that when dealing with a demon like the Yin-receiving woman, my goal is not to send it to the afterlife, but to destroy it. No matter how cruel and vicious it is, I will do it. After Old Guo pulled the red thread out of the inkwell, Yi Xiaoyang took it and soaked it in a bowl, then dipped the spirit talisman into it to refine it. After a while, he took it out and threw it to Old Guo. Three people stood on one side of the room, silently waiting. Xiao Ma nervously asked, "Xiao Yezi, is the expectant mother all right? As long as she takes my medicine and faints, we can fool the demoness. Even if we can't, it doesn't matter. I've already set up a trap. We just have to wait for it to come out." Just as he finished speaking, a baby's cries came from inside. The three looked at each other in astonishment. The baby was born. Yi Xiaoyang slightly curved his lips, blew a strand of hair from his forehead, and said, "We're about to fight. Everyone listen to my command." The delivery room door opened, and a nurse, frowning, stepped out. Looking up, she saw Yi Xiaoyang standing outside the door, surprised and anxiously asked, "Was it successful?" "Not yet," Yi Xiaoyang replied indifferently. "Then why did you all come to the 4th floor?" Yi Xiaoyang chuckled. "How else could we capture the Yin-receiving mother if we didn't come to the 4th floor? Right, Sister Su Yaqian?" Su Yaqian was stunned, suddenly noticing the floor in front of her covered with exorcism tools. Her expression changed abruptly, and she turned around. All the medical staff were standing with their hands clasped in front of the operating table. The head nurse said, "Director Zheng and Department Head Fang have announced that for everyone's safety, no one is allowed to leave. Everyone must stay in the room to care for the mother and baby." Chapter 157. Capturing the Demoness. 2. This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. AA. The Een receiving demoness roared in anger, knowing that staying in the body any longer would cause her to completely lose consciousness. Despite the incessant pain from within, she decisively left the body while her cultivation was still intact. Her whole body trembled, and she slowly flew out. Because the Een receiving demoness could conceal her breath and become invisible, Yi Xiaoyang only saw Su Yaqian fall face down on the ground. While the others were still stunned, Yi Xiaoyang threw the inkstone to Old Gua, shouting, 3 feet away, release the line. Old Gua leaped up and pulled the bloodline out of the inkstone, throwing the other into Yi Xiaoyang. The two quickly spread the bloodline into a large net. An object unexpectedly hit the net, shooting straight back with such force that it made the hands of the two men bleed. The mixture of solutions on the blood vessels was instantly activated, sending several blood vessels flying into the air. Oh! The Een receiving mother cried out in pain, falling to the ground, intending to burrow underground to escape. However, Yi Xiaoyang, having anticipated this, quickly turned and called out to Xiao Ma, "Put the seal." Xiao Ma was startled, immediately sat down cross-legged, and placed the Pichio seal on the nylon sheet. Golden arrows reveal the path, capturing souls and spirits, four-sided ghosts, jade broken and jade scattered. Yi Xiaoyang chanted the incantation while lifting a corner of the nylon sheet. Old Gua also imitated him, lifting the other corner. Both of them moved in a circular motion, mimicking Tai Chi movements. In an instant, the nylon sheet was rolled up, revealing a transparent figure clinging to the sheet, as if wearing a tight-fitting garment. This person was hunched over, holding an iron chain in their left hand and carrying a basket in their right. Upon witnessing the bizarre scene, Fong Jin and his men, despite having seen the security camera footage beforehand, recoiled in fear. A group of security guards, doctors, and nurses pressed against the glass door of the delivery room, observing Yi Xiaoyang with a mixture of reverence and apprehension. All their hopes rested on him. Ugh! The person inside the plastic sheet struggled violently, stretching the sheet to its limit. Yi Xiaoyang shouted, "Xiao Ma, hold on." Xiao Ma gripped the Pichio seal tightly, pressing it down on the head of the sheet. The Pichio seal shook violently. Xiao Ma didn't dare lose his concentration. Despite his large build, the veins on his arms became increasingly prominent, and a drop of sweat trickled down his chin. Except for Yi Xiaoyang and Old Gua, no one knew the immense pressure he was under. He had to use his mental power to control the Pichio. Chapter 158 / This chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. After saying this, the Een receiving woman opened her left palm, revealing a shiny black card with many strange symbols on its surface. Upon seeing it, Yi Xiaoyang's heart sank. Old Gua exclaimed in surprise, "Impossible! You're a demon from the demon realm. How could you have a demon card? This is utterly absurd. Don't think you can fool us." The Een receiving woman chuckled. "Whether it's real or not, we'll know when we see it." Old Gua immediately reached out to take it, but Yi Xiaoyang quickly stopped him, saying in a low voice, "No need. This is a real demon card." "What?" Old Gua shouted. Little Ma, standing beside him, vaguely asked, "What is a ghost card?" Old Gua explained in a low voice, "The underworld has a kind of document similar to an identity card. Any ghost that possesses a ghost card can travel between the two realms of Yin and Yang, without being controlled by ghost messengers or sorcerers. If they commit evil in the human world, as long as they are willing to abandon their cultivation and return to the underworld, the ghost card will become their immunity pass. Sorcerers can only send them back to the underworld, they can't kill them." Little Ma immediately exclaimed, "Damn it! That's so unfair. What era are we in that the underworld still has such feudal rituals?" Old Gua sighed and said, "Usually, only ghost messengers working in the human world have ghost cards and are incapable of committing evil deeds, but..." Yi Xiaoyang also frowned, looking at the Een receiving goddess, and asked, "Where did this ghost card come from?" The Een receiving goddess opened her mouth wide and smiled. He chuckled, "Grandmaster, my demon token is real. You know that, because if I picked it up or stole it, the demon token would automatically disappear. So you have no right to ask where my demon token came from. I've already abandoned my cultivation, Quickly take me back to the underworld. Chapter 159. Giving you a protective amulet. Asterisk, this chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Not long after, Su Yaqian woke up and immediately snuggled into Yi Xiaoyang's arms, crying loudly, making Yi Xiaoyang flustered. He raised his hands to the sky, not knowing where to put them. Brother Xiaoyang, thank you for saving me, Huo. And also Brother Xiao Ma, and this uncle. Wait, Xiao Ma said dejectedly. Weren't you just controlled by that old hag? How come you knew we saved you as soon as you woke up, and even recognized me as Xiao Ma? Su Yaqian calmed down a little, and choked out. My soul was suppressed by that old hag in a deep corner of my mind. Instead of destroying my soul, she deliberately used my memories to mimic my personality, voice, and actions, making me lose control of my body. However, I still heard and knew what had happened over the past few days, and I was extremely worried about everyone. But I had no other choice. Luckily, Xiaoyang was quick-witted and discovered her scheme. Xiao Ma suddenly understood. No wonder that old hag imitated you perfectly. Su Yaqian nodded. Although the person beside you isn't me, I see you every day and consider you my friends. We feel the same way. Xiao Ma chuckled. That's right. When did you get possessed? That night, when you guys went to the restroom, the receiving goddess deliberately released a spirit to harass you, then took the opportunity to cling to me. It secretly blew out the 3 lamps on your shoulders, and while Brother Xiaoyang was distracting the Blood Fox ghost, it possessed me without me even realizing it. Su Yaqian's words made Yi Xiaoyang suddenly remember the spirits he had subdued. He took out some talismans and released the spirits. Of the 3 spirits, one had just been captured, its body still in the hospital. As soon as it was released, its soul seemed to be drawn by a powerful force, and as soon as it landed on the ground, it immediately slipped through the crack in the door and ran away. The other 2 had their malevolent energy cleared from their bodies, becoming harmless. They now transformed into 2 innocent children, rolling around and playing in the room. Xiao Ma stared in disbelief, speechless. Little Yi, what's going on? Xiao Ma hurriedly asked. They've been possessed for a long time. Their bodies are weak, and they can't find their way around right now. Let them stay here for a while. They'll find their bodies on their own later. Yi Xiaoyang glanced at the time. Half an hour had passed, but the ghost messengers still hadn't arrived, which struck him as strange. Xiao Ma said, There's something I can't figure out, little Yi. You deceived the old ghost woman earlier, saying that ghost souls couldn't leave the ceiling formation, which is why she didn't dare leave the hospital. You were clearly lying, so why did she believe you? Yi Xiaoyang smirked. Who said you were lying? Isn't that right? Xiao Ma was astonished. Then why didn't it leave the hospital? Chapter 160, A New Battle. Asterisk, this chapter contains images. If you cannot see the chapter content, please enable image display in your browser to read it. Back at the inn, Yi Xiaoyang took a shower and then climbed into bed to call Xie Yuqing, briefly explaining the recent situation. She was currently implementing a plan to capture Jin Shui and had located him in the nearby mountains. You swindler, where are you planning to go next? Xie Yuqing asked. 2 more places, either way is fine. Let me check the map first, and then text you. Yi Xiaoyang asked a few more questions before hanging up. After thinking for a moment, he called Chu Jingru again, briefly explaining the situation. Chu Jingru was very happy to hear it. After chatting for a while, Chu Jingru said, There's something I want to tell you. Do you remember Li Wei, Mr. Li, the person in charge of the mainland mountain villa we met last time? He might call you to ask for your help with something. At that time, you don't need to be polite to me. Just refuse directly. Yi Xiaoyang thought for a moment, the image of Mr. Li flashing through his mind. He asked irritably, What does he want with me? He said his younger brother is possessed by an evil spirit, and it's quite serious. He wants your help. I told him you've been very busy lately, barely taking care of yourself. He said his brother's house is on the embankment, not far from the mainland mountain villa, a half-hour drive away. I really couldn't refuse, so I gave him your phone number. He'll call you tomorrow. Okay, no problem. The issue is... Wait a minute, where did you say Mr. Li's younger brother is? Yi Xiaoyang frowned and asked. At the Li family's embankment, why? Wait a moment. Yi Xiaoyang put down his mobile phone and quickly took out the map that Xie Yuqing had printed for him. He glanced at it. One of the 4 red markers was located on the embankment of the Leaf family's estate. He had seen it before, so he had a good impression of it. Was Lee's younger brother possessed by an evil spirit, and was it related to the 5 Ghost Mountain formation?